Hi guys, I can't believe it's already been 8 days since I gave birth to my twin daughters. I kind of want to put out a birth story so all of you that have been following along on my crazy journey can kind of hear what happens. Sorry I look like this. This is kind of what I look like now that, I'm taking care of the girls 24/7 and getting maybe a combined 4 hours of sleep in the last 8 days. But I'm still loving it. I'm not complaining at all. It's definitely been an amazing, amazing time. So let me see if I can get this video out before my girls that are laying over here decide to wake up and it's feeding time again. So most of you who have been following me know that I had a scheduled C-section and it was to be on April 5th. And I was so hoping to hold the girls in, and I really wanted my doctor to deliver and all that stuff. So yeah, so they had sent me to L&D a couple of times, the week before, and they always sent me home saying, your blood pressure's fine, the protein in your urine is fine. So I went to a regular scheduled OB appointment. It was actually my last appointment, and it was a little bittersweet for me, especially when you start to see, I know for me it's like I saw my doctor so often that it's like they just become like a part of your family in a way, and he was just so wonderful to me and my husband, and he was there through my miscarriage, and so I just really feel a connection to him. Anyways, so I'm sitting there. Well, the nurse had done my vitals, and my blood pressure came back high, which I thought was so crazy because I'd been checking my blood pressure the last few days when I was home, and it was fine. So I was like, crap, what's he gonna say today? We can hold off until the 5th, right? Because this was actually April 1st, April Fool's Day. So I'm sitting there waiting for him and waiting, and then all of a sudden he pops his head in and he goes, "Hi Amber, so when did you eat last?" And I was like, "Dr. Dagger-Angie," I was like, do not tell me what you're thinking. Because I knew instantly what he was talking about. Because if he wants to know when I ate last, because he's planning on having me have my C-section. And so he says, "Amber," he says, "you know what, your blood pressure's high." He said, "I'm on the phone right now with the hospital, and I'm scheduling for them to do your C-section today." He said, "Here's the bottom line. The girls are ready. You've done an amazing job. You've kept them in for 37 weeks exactly." He said, "I just don't want to mess around with these two lives." He said, "We worked really hard to get to this point," and he said, "and I'm just going to worry about you the whole weekend. So why wait?" And he says, "And plus," he says, "I'm going to be at the hospital today for a meeting anyways." He says, "So I will be doing your surgery." And okay, how can I argue with that? I mean, for one thing, I want the girls to be healthy. I want them to be safe. I know that I had made it to the full term mark at 37 weeks. I was miserable. I was ready to have them. And to top it off, he was going to make a point to do my surgery. So there you have it. So I called my husband at work. He actually works at the hospital where I was going to be delivering at. And what's his first words are, "Amber, don't mess with me." He said, "No jokes, it's not funny." And I'm like, I seriously would not call you at work and joke about this. This is not, So I just ran home because my doctor's office is really close to home, and I got the last little minute things like the camcorder and camera and all that. And I told my husband I'd meet him at work, and then we would go up to L&D. So we got there, and they hooked me up to the monitors. My blood pressure was still a bit elevated, some protein in my urine. So the bottom line is that I didn't develop preeclampsia, but my doctor believes I was on the verge. My body was just tired, and I had supported 2 babies, for so long that it was just time. And my body was actually telling everybody that it was time. So I kind of made the joke to my husband. I said, "You know what? I've been joking all along that just watch, these girls are gonna be born on April 1st, April Fool's babies," and we just always kind of joked about it, thought it was funny. Well, that's what happened. So I was very nervous for the surgery. Most of you know that it wasn't my first choice, but I didn't really have a choice because Ava had her, was breech, and so there was no way for me to have a regular delivery. So they had me walk into the OR, and I was petrified because I'm used to being on the other side. I'm not used to being the patient. I'm used to being one that takes care of people. So it was very nerve-wracking, and plus it's like I know all their medical terminology and I know what they're talking about, and so that was scary. And I was a little bit nervous about the spinal, but to be honest, ladies, not that bad. The part that kind of stung was when they numb you before they put in the catheter for the spinal. So not too bad. They just kind of had me leaning over. I think the worst part of it was I kept telling the nurse in front of me that I felt like I was going to fall onto her because she was holding me on the table like bent over, but it was good. And then weird feeling ever is when your toes start to get all tingly and numb and they want you to lay back on the table and everything's starting to go numb and they're preparing you and you know that they're touching you, but you really can't feel it. It's like the weirdest feeling ever. And I was just laying there and I just couldn't believe that in moments, I was going to have my daughters here. Sorry, I'm still like a bit emotional. All these hormones are like, woo, all over the place, but it was definitely awesome. So they brought my husband in and he's all dressed up in all the garb and he was so excited and but nervous. We were definitely both nervous. I was a bit upset that they wouldn't let me record. I really wanted to get the girls on video right when they were being taken out, but it's my hospital's policy, no recording. He couldn't even take pictures of me on the table. So any picture that we have is as when I'm in recovery room after the babies are born. So yeah, they start the procedure. My heart rate was really elevated, but to be honest, I wasn't nervous. I kept telling them I'm not nervous, but I think it's just that like subconsciously or whatever, my body was nervous, so my heart rate was really high. But you know, like I wasn't like showing it. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, so they start the whole process and you know, it takes a little bit of time for them to get to the girls and everything. And so we're laying there and I'm thinking, okay, when is this happening? And then all of a sudden my doctor says, "We have a foot." And I knew instantly that that was Ava. And then the most sorry, I can't stop the tears, but the most amazing sound like you've ever heard in your life was when she started to cry. And I just looked at my husband and I couldn't even like look at him completely because we were both like so emotional. And it's like an accumulation of all of our years of struggling for a family. And then we had it. And she was screaming and she sounded so beautiful. Like it kind of sucked because I couldn't see her. But I could hear everybody and all the nurses were like, "Oh my gosh, she's so big and she's so healthy and everything." So, you know, they whisk her over to the warmer and I can kind of hear her fussing, but she wasn't really crying. I could just kind of hear her whining a bit and all that. And so then the doctor, it was funny, he said, "All right, Amber, I'm going in for baby number 2. And I was just like laying there thinking, oh my gosh, and you're kind of feeling them tug and everything a little bit. And then you hear another cry. And what was the coolest thing ever was that they sounded so different. Like they had such different cries. And even my doctor was like, "Oh my gosh, they sound so different." And so that was pretty cool. And I told my husband, I said, I actually talked to the anesthesiologist. I said, can my husband go to them now? Because I wanted him to go get pictures and I wanted him to bond with them. Because we had kind of talked about everything that I wanted him to do. Because he doesn't really know and he doesn't know like what he's allowed. And I just told him, I said, I want you to go over there and I want you to talk to the girls because they know your voice and I really want them to be comforted and calmed by you and everything. So they let him go over right instantly to the girls because I told him, I said, don't worry about me, I'm fine. You know, they're just kind of finishing up, stitching me up and all that stuff. So he went over there and I could hear him talking to them and instant quiet, like instant, and sorry, and like so emotional, that they stopped crying the second that they heard his voice. And that was awesome. So then they had him come back over to me, and he was holding Ava. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh my gosh, who is this baby?" Because in all of our ultrasound pictures and the 4D and everything, she looked just like my husband. But she didn't look like my husband at all. She looked like me. And she was blonde. You know, you guys, if you've watched my video on introducing the girls, I mean, she's blonde, she's fair. She's actually identical to me as a newborn. Like, we can compare our pictures, and it's like looking at me. It's so crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she was big, you know. 7 pounds, 5 ounces for 3 weeks early is big. I can only imagine how much bigger she would have gotten if I had actually, let's say, gone to 40 weeks. Crazy. And then the nurses brought over Leah, and they put Leah in Michael's arms. So he's holding them like this, and he has the mask on still, and